before that, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. K. Srinivas. I come from Indian Council of Agricultural Research and presently looking after the position of intellectual property and technology management. It's basically a complete picture of the whole technology development, its protection, its transfer, and not only its transfer, its promotion aspects for the entrepreneurs like you. And we can tell you that in this particular thing, we have around 50 agri-business incubators in 50 institutes across the India. Different places are there. There is one in the Pune also, which are working on a specific institute-wise mandate. So this is basically we do is that we try to understand the entrepreneurs' interest in any aspect, whether it's a food aspect, whether it's a production aspect, pre-production aspect, and then try to make him adjust in that particular incubator so that he can have the whole scenario of what probably many committees and management institutes may not give is also the technology, because technology is the backbone of any innovative startups that we normally look into. This is a brief introduction of my organization, but for more you can always visit to our website, that is www.icr.org.in. So basically, when we are talking about the whole startup ecosystem, I'll put it as an innovative ecosystem because that is more relevant in this aspect rather than startup ecosystem. And this innovation ecosystem includes startups also. And this innovation ecosystem, when I'll be talking, and its relevance to startup, because innovation is very, very important aspect to look into the whole ecosystem. And when you really look into the startups or entrepreneurs, nowadays, even in the official definition of Government of India, innovation is one of the important aspect. While defining a startup, it should be an innovative, it should be a less than 10 years or 7 years, depending on the type of company it is, and also not a offshoot of a bigger company. These are all the conditions that Government of India has put to define a startup. So this is basically, that is why I chose the innovation basically an important aspect of the startup. And when we talk about the innovativeness, we talk about the innovation system perspective, which is basically a pluralistic perspective. It has a food security in its phase, because when we have became the independent country in 1947, we were a food deficit country. And then a lot of innovations have come in and we became the food surplus. But with that, we have that certain mistakes, and because of that, a lot of environmental concern has also come up with that. Not only because of that, because of industrialization, as well as some mistakes in agriculture, we have some environmental constraints, but we have to look into the needs of the customers, because it's going to be a very huge in 2050 as our population is growing very, very fast. And finally, we need to understand that all the wealth that is being generated in the economy needs to be equitably distributed. And that is one of the goals that we talk about when we talk about the pluralistic innovation systems perspective. And national pride, definitely Anand has also dealt in it. I will not be doing it. So it is basically anything which is creating a novel, contributing to a value chain that satisfied the present and future needs, because it is interesting to see that MCCIA is planning to, their food division is planning and started an event on the future needs of the food systems. That is important because food comes from the agriculture. So this is the basic thing, and this is the basically where the canvas of the innovation that we normally look into that, whereas there is certain basic things are there, and certain basic things which are created needs to go for the different stakeholders, and they have to grow up. When we talk about the basics of innovation, it is basically improved inputs. We talk about the seed varieties, seed inputs, maybe a bio input or a chemical input or a machinery. These are all the basic needs of the any farming system that is required, and for that we have kept it in a that these are the must, and most of these are being looked into by public sector innovations. But when we talk about the delivery of these technologies or innovation, it requires a knowledge and improved inputs, including credit system. So we see lot of companies that are coming in this particular area. Lot of companies are coming in which are delivering the knowledge, which are delivering the inputs, and some fintech companies, agri fintech companies like Pay Agris are coming up in the delivering some sort of credits and financing to the farmers through the FPO model, and different models are there. There are all the innovations we can call up. And then comes the innovation for the scale up, which actually, if I'm not wrong, Anand and its group are trying to build a scale up models for everything which is there, whether it's a input production system or it's a delivery system. So, as I told you, innovation is not a new topic. It has been there. But most of these innovations were at the public sector because we were dealing in the basics of the innovations. The exotic gene introduction, like dwarf variety of wheat and rice, which gave a high yielding variety, a combination of different genes for plant protection, improved yields, and other nowadays new combination for the climatic resilient crops are coming up. So this type of things are there, and we know all the rice and wheat story when we were in early 60s, when we were food deficit countries. We had to import and no one was ready to give us. And that time, very poor variety of wheat under the US government's parliament resolution called PL 480. The wheat came, and we were directly from the ship to mouth systems we were there, and lot of problems were there. And then we decided it is our innovation systems that we need to develop, a whole research and innovation systems that we need to develop. And we started working on improving the varieties of the crops, not only varieties, its management practices. And that time we also tried to deliver it into different formats like training and visit systems, or improving extension systems. So these were there, which we started with that, and we have been very, very successful. Today, India is a food surplus country, and it's all goes to the innovations that has been taken in the economy, the farmers who have adopted it, because adoption is also not a easy job. The early adopter and before early adopter, if you see the definition, they are called the innovators. So early adoption is also an important thing, and a lot of farmers at that time have adopted, and probably some of them have over adopted. In mid 80s, 1780s, mostly delivery systems have come up. As I was telling you, the training and visits, field demonstrations, Krishi Vigyan Kendras, APMCs and rural markets. These were the innovations who some of them are actually losing some of the relevance at this particular time, and government is trying to bring in some policy injections in different aspects of all these things, including seed chains, KVK system, APMC markets. We are trying to tweak in some sort of improvement. Definitely it is going to happen, but post WTO, which is very, very important, there has been a big boon in the innovation system. We have, for the basic thing, we have come up with the molecular aided selection systems, which are very, very important for breeding the crops at a very fast pace, almost double the space. For the transfer of technology, we have tried the Institute Village Linkage Program, in which we try to understand the inclusive decision making by the villagers and the researchers and the production, all the people in the value chain, which is now coming up in the form of many, many startups and all those things. These are the era that Government of India has looked into that. Then came the NAIP, which is basically a consortium-based approach for the livelihood, where the collectivization has started and lot of SHGs. Now they have been changing into FPOs. Earlier SHGs, JLGs were there. Now the format is changing into the FPOs and other things which are basically there, and public-private partnership is coming, where what Anand has again told that many, not Anand actually, Vishwas has told that corporates are actually looking into many innovations from the ready to use innovations, and we are providing a lot of innovations to many public sectors, including new varieties of seed, new formulations, new machineries, and all those things which are more adaptable to Indian conditions, because earlier we have adopted the international things which are available, but now we are developing our own whole input systems within India, and we are trying to make it adaptable in Indian conditions. So these are all the things which are there. Now coming up to the startup entrepreneurship, because startup and entrepreneurship is basically comes out of the innovation. Any innovation startup, anyone, you can start any type of business, that is the entrepreneurship. Any type of business with certain level of risk taking, you have to do it, and this risk taking actually, when you talk about, becomes the any enterprise. Like you can open a kirana shop, you can open an input shop, you can open a restaurant, you can open a small food factory with the existing level of knowledge and technology. But when you start innovating in this, that becomes a startup, and startup requires a fast scaling up. That is another thing. If you have to the scale up, if you see the range of scaling up of a startup, it has to go up very fast in the uniqueness. So basically, these are all the things. This is what I was telling you. Most of the startups require a science and technology based innovations, and innovations actually require, as Anand was telling, there is a lot of opportunities from the government sector to do this type of innovations through science and technology based innovations. I can give you a couple of examples, like Department of Biotechnology, through its many programs, like BIG is there, that is BIRAC Innovation Grant is there, or Sitare is there, or BIPP is there, are looking for the innovative ideas that can be taken up to the next level, which can actually make your innovations possible into a good startup. Likewise, Department of Science and Technology through Nidhi Prayas, it's trying to make your whole idea converted into product or services, but requires a strong science or technology backing. That is one thing. If it is an IP protected, that is intellectual property protected in terms of design patent, or copyright or trademark, your valuation increases like anything. So valuation game is also one of the important things if you are looking into that. The networking is important for any entrepreneur or a startup. He needs to have lot many people, and try to leverage the advantage of the people around it. So this type of networking is definitely important, and your communication has to be very clear and crisp, so that you can even impress the people within 2 minutes to 20 minutes, depending on the time period that has been given to you. And risk taking definitely is one of the key factors that entrepreneurs should have. So these are all the things which actually everyone into we are looking into the entrepreneur who wants to be a very good startup and maybe a unicorn. But the agriculture, and in agriculture now I'll come to the more important aspect of the agriculture. How the startup look the agricultural scenario in this way. There are 3 stages. I can tell you: pre-production stage, that because before sowing of the crop, you are, or even tilling of the crop, there are many issues that you have to, the farmer has to look into that, and many problem in the whole value chain to deliver the inputs to the farmers. You can look into that. For example, uh, a farmer planning has to plan that which type of crop he has to go, which variety he has to grow, so that his product is sold at the maximum possible price that he can get it from that particular. For that, he requires a market advisory. As on date, I don't see any market advisory company which is there in the scenario. Couple of them are now coming, which are advising to the FPO, because FPO is a collectivization of the farmers. That's another innovation which has been introduced by the government. So FPO are actually looking into these market advisories, that next season, what type of product should I grow, which can be sold at very high price. Not only grow, but how should I plan? Whether I plan it at one time, or whether do I should I do it in a staggering plantation mode, or any different mode? Do I need to put it into a controlled environmental condition, which can come up as an off-season crop? And most of these crops, apart from rice and wheat and maize, that is the field crops, if you look into the vegetable crops, you require a lot of planning specifically for vegetable crops. Fruit crops, it's a long-term crop. You have to look into the long-term market, which type of things are there. Because I understand that we used to have less number of, means less area under pomegranate, which is very, very important in Maharashtra. But now if you see, a lot of orchards are coming up with the pomegranates, with the new technology, that production part we can come up. Second important aspect is with weather advisories. Couple of companies are already there in the weather advisories, like Cropin is there, Skymet is there, IMD of Government of India is already there. So these are all the important things while you wanted to plan for a crop. Then product planning advisory, I have already told you. Then important thing is soil advisory, soil analysis and nutrition advisory. These is the nutrition which the soil needs to get it. So you need to have a quick assessment of your soil. And couple of companies, I can tell you one very good company, which is basically Udupi based, and their corporate office in Hyderabad. They have been with us for a couple of months as an acceleration program called Krishi Tantra. Within 30 minutes, they can give you different types of major and micronutrient analysis, and completely based on chemical as well as physical evaluation of the soil, which is to be taken up, and they are doing very, very good. They have raised a funding of around 9 crores from Omnivore and NAB Ventures, and also has been accelerated. In my previous stint, we have accelerated them. Production advisory is, again, I have already told about you. Then the input supply chain, very, very important aspect. Couple of companies tried to do this. Many of the companies tried to do this, but couple of companies have actually succeeded in this. And one is again a Maharashtra-based company called AgroStar is there, like Dehat is there. Couple of these are the companies which are there, which are basically there for the input supply chain. You ask them, they will deliver you at your doorstep at right time and the right quantity and the right quality. So these are all has to be ensured for a farmer at a right price. That is also another aspect that a farmer looks into that. If you can ensure a very nice, effective supply chain. So, and although I can say there are a couple of companies are there in this field, but there is a scope of many more companies to come up in this particular field also. Then farm equipment for pre-production activities, like how you wanted to till your soil, you wanted to make it more for a different crops, you require a different types of texture, then land leveling. All these things are required before you sow seed. So companies like EM3 is there, which is basically a company which is collective, doing it collectively. Oxen Farm Solutions, now I think they have stopped their services, but Oxen Farm Solutions were there, which are doing this. And financial services, as I told you, credit is important, and many companies are coming, trying to solve this problem, like PayAgree is there, Samunnati is there. These are all the startups which are actually created a very, very big market buzz in the problem. So all these things, if you really look into the scenario, you will be understanding that there is a problem at every stage. What you need to do is understand the problem, try to solve it. There can be a problem, you can take two, three problems and try to solve it. When you are solving it, use the technology for your back end, use the scientific idea, scientific principles of crop production in your mind. If you're not able to do, you can go to institutes of not only ICR, but there are 79 agricultural universities. And when I talk about agriculture, it includes veterinary sciences, fishery sciences, and every type of sciences. And I can give you all the examples in different sectors also. So this is one thing. And during the production sector area, again, weather advisory is important. Once you have sown the crop, and if they say there will be a long drought for 15-20 days, in between a long spell of drought will be there, then you need to adjust your cropping pattern in that way. So these are all the important things. Even during the crop planning, weather is there. So as I told you, skymate is there, and cropping also gives some of the yeah. Then biotic stress advisory and material, biotic stress and abiotic stress, I'll club together. Biotic stress is basically comes out of some bioagents like fungus or bacteria or fungus, sometime like that. You get the infections in the crop, and you need to treat it properly in a proper places. And virus is also one of the things. How you can detect it is a very, very important thing. Whenever the farmers comes in the fine morning and sees 50% of his crop is already affected by some disease. So how can we identify it beforehand, even before using it? Yes, we have the technologies, we have the science behind it. Lot of companies, I can give you one company called Bharat Rohan, again a crop in. These are the companies which actually uses the multispectral and hyperspectral images to understand the crop behavior, its changing pattern, changing biochemical pattern, and understanding that with this pattern, this type of infections or stress, even stress also can come up. There can be a water stress, there can be a excess water, and how the crop behaves, and you can learn these behaves through imaging analysis. And these imaging analysis are becoming very, very popular nowadays. So these companies are there which are doing very good in this type of things. And once you understand that this this disease is seen in one plant out of 1 hectare, which may be having more than 1 lakh plants, and one plant, if it is infected, you can immediately take the precaution measure so that it won't spread to a larger space. 1 or 2 days, if you leave it, and if you look into physically, you may not be able to detect it. And here, this type of imaging analysis and modeling can actually detect it. So these are the things which are there. Package of practices advisories are there. A couple of companies are working in Tamil Nadu for package of practices. Financial services are always there. You have to understand that these services are important and very, very much in that. And in most of these, let me tell you, in the pre-production and post-production aspect, many of the technologies are already developed by Indian Council of Agricultural Research through its 110 institutes, which may be, you can look it as a National Research Center or Indian Institute or Central Institute. There are different types of nomenclatures are there. But many of these problems have been identified and tackled by these institutes. We consider if some startup comes and take up these solutions and scale it up in a proper way, for which we give the incubation support by giving the technologies backstopping. Secondly, by giving the proper connects to this IP advisory formats. Then we will also give them the some business connects around the things, make the strategy of planning for the startup. These are the and startup has to plan for the farmers or any stakeholders in the whole value chain. So these are the things are there. Post production actually has been at length has been discussed by Anand, but I just wanted to say a couple of things. Post harvest grading and packaging. Grading is one of the important thing, and a lot of graders are available for different fruits and vegetable crops, but still it is a gray area you can look into because large number of crop varieties are there. We can look into these and we can actually make it important. Storage of products, sorry for the spelling mistakes. Storage of the products produced is important. Can you store with a less cost? Because the storages which were developed in early 16 were humongous, lot of money is there. But I have seen a couple of companies are actually working on this. One Pune-based company was one of the first person who said if we can make some sort of modular storage structure for this. And prospects of value addition, that's one other thing. And also when we talk about the grading, you can do a lot of work in terms of understanding the fruits and products through again the imaging technologies. Lot of couple of companies I can tell you. One called Agrix, which is a Bombay-based companies, is working on the potato grading and sorting. Another company called this Intello Labs, which is also looking into the gradings of many of the crops and vegetables. And most important, one of the star company which I rate is a star company called AgNext, which is a Chandigarh based company in which we have invested also earlier, and the exit was of 5x. So you can understand how fast the company is going. The 5x is within the span of 4 years. We have earned 5 times what we have invested. So that type of companies are there in the field which are looking for the grading and sorting through the hyperspectral imaging. And definitely these can also test some of the not only the phenotype thing, but whatever the chemical changes are there within the crops or fruits, whatever there. So these are all basically looking into that. And couple of technologies are coming from the ICR in this field also, specifically for the mangoes. Incubation, as I told you, is a complete era, and what we give is a complete set of the things which we normally give. I'm not going to talk up, and I'll be going to talk about more on agri startups which are there in more than 3,000. Now it is around 3,800. The slide is a couple of old one. And a couple of them have raised the VC angels. Mostly we have seen southern states followed by western states. That is, southern states when I talk about is mostly Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Agri startups are maximum in this, followed by your area. And Pune is one of the very, very important hub in agri and food startups, besides Gujarat as well as Mumbai. So these are all the three important aspects in the things. There are a number of incubators, as I told you. In ICR, we have 50 incubators, and these incubators are working on a different themes. Couple of the one of them are working on the oil seeds, soybean, specifically on soybean. Then IRA is working on a large range of the things. Likewise, even veterinary and dairy incubators. You can find a lot many of incubators in this. There are 29 funded by Department of Agricultural Cooperation, and couple of them are over here. Four now it is 6 funded by NABARD, and others are also funded like Venture Center is one which is basically sector agnostic, but agriculture is also one of the one of the area in which they work. So different types of incubators are there, and we have been doing it till now from 2016-17. We have given a couple of our things what happened from 2014 to 2016. We have actually nurtured 917 companies, out of which 715 are still working. So we have a quite success range of around 70-75%, and this is very, very important for sustaining, and couple of them are really growing very fast in the whole scenario. Thank you for giving me the chance again, and I request you if you have any questions to ask.